yourself, I see it no different than getting a bag from anyone else.
Okay, yeah, so I feel like a lot of what's happened here is a complete misunderstanding of my position from Ostenox. I'm never arguing Kick being a morally better platform. I just find passing a judgment on everyone's character who goes there to be a little hypocritical coming from a Twitch perspective because like I said, Kick or Twitch isn't like a morally righteous platform either, which I know you agree with. You've criticized
Yeah.
Twitch openly, right?
Yeah.
So I just think it's very odd to say blatantly that if you go to Kick, you are a bad person for it.
Yeah,
That's
I
the
think
only thing I was taking issue with.
I think Austin Ox was, he was popping off a little bit. I think that, I mean, a lot of these, he is vegan. That's probably why his moral compass is like a little bit stronger than both of ours. So that does make sense. But as far as like all of the conversation that has happened around Kick and Steak, I think that my speculation. Have you listened to me talk to XQ about this with Pokey?
No, I said this before. I think you know this. I don't usually watch debates because I think it's not super conducive to an understanding because most people go in there with like their side, their mind already made up and they just count points. I prefer conversations like we're having. A conversation I think is more
I agree.
conducive to like an actual understanding. So I don't usually watch debates, so I didn't tune in.
I agree. I don't disagree with that at all. I usually use it as an opportunity to try to at least like get some people to understand a more nuanced perspective that I often am talking about instead of like literal clips that they're seeing that are clipped out of context and then they make like assertions off of who I am and what I represent. But
Hmm.
as far as that conversation went, I celebrated XQC going to Kick like everyone else did because, $100 million deal for a streamer legitimizes streaming as a platform, as a vertical, and having that New York Times coverage be written is a good thing overall for the industry. And I do think that competition overall is good in this space. I would even go so far as to say is that I have some level of selfishness in this regard, where I think like I'm looking at it purely as like streamers being value providers for platforms, and on that front, it's good. I want there to be more competition, so Twitch can't make these ridiculous decisions because they feel free as they are the monopolizing force in the live streaming space, right?
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yeah, go on.
I was just gonna say another thing that I mentioned, and I think it's something that I imagine most streamers would agree with. Those contracts are super valuable to the viewers because if you're getting a bag like that, you are now being paid an hourly wage, I imagine. So you don't need to rely on viewer donations. Like I bet if you could, you would prefer that you don't
Yeah,
take money from your audience, right? Like I feel like that's something that
actually, you know
people
what? I
overlook.
probably wouldn't because I think. Well, I would love to not run any ads. That would be great, right? I think you and I agree on that. But no, I think subscription based, for me at least, is the best because that way I feel like I have a level of editorial control that allows me to say whatever the fuck I want freely. You know what I mean? I would feel because I understand that like these companies are ultimately bad, right? And I'm gonna have a lot of disagreements with their business practices that I feel significantly more comfortable being funded entirely by my audience. But I totally get why other people don't want to do that. I just think because of what I do, I would rather have a grassroots funding mechanism.
Okay, I can understand that perspective. I guess then I'll just speak from my personal beliefs. I would prefer, like, if I wasn't signed to Twitch, I would once again not be running any ads. I would prefer, I haven't had donations on my stream for like 5 years now, and I would prefer not to have subs if I could rely on the Twitch contract to pay. Because I'd prefer that people just get the content, no hassle, no obligation to pay for it, and just enjoy it. But I can understand where you're coming from as more of like an editorial perspective, so I guess that makes sense. I'll just speak from my perspective in that for me, I feel like the contracts for a viewer experience could be elevated because now you don't have that kind of like obligation like I should really pay for this entertainment. The streamer's taken care of. and you also no longer have the obligation of ads, like you mentioned, where you don't have to run those.
Yeah.
So I just think there's a lot of benefits to just normalizing streamer contracts in general.
Yeah. I'm in a unique predicament, so it's different. I get that. One thing I will say, though, however, is that the reason why I prefer a subscription-based mechanism partially is because, like I said, companies are bad overall. They do a lot of unethical things. And ultimately, I feel like Stake, which is the main funder of Kick, is generating value and generating revenue off of gambling, unregulated crypto gambling online with not really a lot of age guards or anything like that. And Amazon is generating value by selling commerce, e-commerce, delivery services, and a fuckload of other stuff, AWS being one of the primary examples of this, which ironically also Kick relies on, and IVS. So that's how those guys, that's how Amazon makes their money. And both are in different levels and in different ways unethical, right? Yep. But ultimately, you're translating, you're substituting like one bad way of delivering content and like serving ads or potentially getting money from your audience to a different vehicle where the funding for Stake is happening through people losing money gambling on their website.
Yeah,
so,
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. My bad.
No, it's fine. Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I was just going to say, like you mentioned at the very beginning, for people that go on Kick as a streamer, there's no, at least not from what I've seen, necessitation to drive their audience to the gambling category of Stake, thus driving that revenue personally. So I don't think the streamers are bad people for engaging with a platform that is funded by an unethical company, like you mentioned, without them pushing their audience to it. Like, I don't think going to Kick necessarily means you're exposing your audience to gambling addiction if you yourself are just doing gaming streams or normal streams, right? And Amazon does make its money through commerce, but of course there is always that ethical dilemma where their money is literally on the corpses of their workers. You're a huge donor to like labor, right? You donate to unions, and they're notorious for union busting.
Yeah.
Like,
well, specifically Amazon Labor Union, actually. I've had Chris Smalls on.
Yeah, exactly.
Who's the president of the Amazon Labor Union.
It's not like that money's super clean either, but you as a streamer aren't the one making sure Amazon can continue to exploit all of those workers. You're doing your part to stand against it while still being fundamentally an employee of the platform. And I feel like that courtesy isn't extended to Kick streamers for some reason, when if they're just doing normal gaming streams, they're not funneling those people to the Stake money-making mechanism the same way you don't on Kick, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get it, which is why I said, like, I don't think like every single streamer that is taking a bag from Kick, or rather Stake in this regard, especially if they're not going to be doing gambling streams or whatever, are like directly participating in that sort of thing. Which is why I understand and hope that Kick could be an unmarried product to Stake. I just don't think that that is realistic. That was like a big point of contention between XQC and I when we had that conversation, where he was trying to say, like, dude, what are you talking about? Like, Kick is actually a completely separate institution, and it's, we got big projects in the works, and we're going to sign a lot of streamers, and it's going to be totally different. And I want to believe that, but knowing what I know about this space, knowing what I know about the back end, knowing what I know about how expensive of an endeavor it is to do live web service, live web hosting, and knowing what I know about businesses, there has to be a return on investment for the main company, right? Stake being the main company. And that ROI is foot traffic into Stake. That's just the truth. Now, it's an indirect way of doing it, just like I indirectly, every time I fucking click an ad at the top of the hour or in the middle of the hour when there's a 1 minute ad, I'm running ads. It could even be a fucking DraftKings ad. You know what I mean? Like, I have no control over that. And then I am being paid to do that. I'm being paid to, basically paid to drive traffic indirectly to another place that I would have an issue with, right? Yeah, so I get 100%. That. I just don't know where Stake is going to go with Kick. So when I say, on the one hand, get the bag, it's great. On the other, I will always maintain the position that, like, Stake as an institution designed Kick after gambling was banned on Twitch. Unregulated crypto gambling was banned on Twitch. And I think that's ultimately always going to be their main reason for creating Kick.
Yeah, and that's totally fair. Like I said in the tweets, again, I'm just speaking as of current Kick. Right now, they're not funneling the viewers there through ads or anything. It is still relegated to one category. Once again, the same way Twitch is still having gambling here in one category. But like I said, it very well could be a more aggressive tactic to push people to stake, and that would be their big ROI play. But right now, it's not in the current cards, so I just don't agree with vilifying every streamer that goes there. Right now, Kick seems to try and be scaling as Twitch is fumbling, so they're just signing a ton of streamers, and those streamers aren't necessarily evil for going there if they're not pushing their viewers to become gambling addicts.
Yeah, I mean, it's like this. The example I used for XQC was was Britney Spears or Cirque du Soleil, which is a French-Canadian institution. Cirque du Soleil has a contract with the M Group, which owns MGM and numerous other casinos in Las Vegas. Now, their goal for residencies is to drive foot traffic or to offer some additional amenities to people who will inevitably come to Vegas to gamble in the casino. But the main money-making operation for the casinos is the gambling, right? Mm-hmm. So it's no different than getting a residency in Vegas is the way I see it. Obviously, there is a different conversation to be had when there is no regulation whatsoever revolving around this, because like there's still a Nevada Health Commission even that can make assertions on how much unregulated gambling is happening in the state of Nevada, or there's some regulation revolving around this. There's a physical barrier of like being able to go to Las Vegas and gamble in this physical space. So it's still not perfectly comparable because stake is, the access to stake is what makes it so damaging, in my opinion, because you can do it from the comfort of your home, and you can like very easily sign on and just like put your money, immediately put your fucking credit card information and like get, start getting it twisted. And I think that is the reason why it's like uniquely even worse than other forms of gambling. But ultimately, I think streamers that are getting that bag from Kick at this time should remember that. They should carry that with them, and they should be very aware that ultimately they might be whether reluctantly or inadvertently driving traffic to stake.
Yeah, we're definitely not in disagreement on any of these points. Once again, the core is just, like you said, don't view everyone that goes there as evil for doing so. And I feel like to pass a moral judgment on everyone while still being on Twitch is just a little odd. It just seems like an overbearing response. Yeah.
Look, I can't speak for Asanox. He is his own person. But as far as like the way people have been perceiving Pokimane, for example, I think it's been unjust. She has had her perspective on crypto gambling from the jump. Same goes for myself and many others. And I think people just like latched onto it and turned this conversation away from like the meat of the argument, which is Kick's relationship with stake and like what that might present in the future to basically like, oh, well, everyone is on their fucking moral high horse. Like, fuck these people. They're wrong for shitting on Kick. You know what I mean?
Admittedly, I haven't seen too much of the Twitter discourse. I've kind of not been super involved until today. So I haven't seen a lot of that, but I could totally see that happening there for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's on Twitch as well. I mean, it's everywhere. Like everyone is now coming across like they are rushing to basically separate Kick and stake. The main person doing this is XQC. And I think that that's unreasonable. That's wrong. Like that's one position that I will not move on because I know that Stake has an interest in beefing up Kick specifically so they can, at least to a certain degree, drive traffic to stake.
Like and I think it'd be silly to deny that.
So yeah, you agree with that. Okay, so that's good.
Of course,
so we're in agreement there. Okay, great.
Yeah,
so
there's a vested interest in stake still having a presence on Kick. 100%. I think that's pretty noticeable.
Yeah, I've just seen so many people kind of act like that's not a real thing, or I guess now they've moved on to being like, well, Amazon's bad too. And Amazon is bad. I agree. Yeah, I mean, I shit on Amazon more than every other streamer that has talked about Amazon. That's like 100%. What I do professionally.
Which is why I was surprised during today's whole discourse that it was even like a contentious point. People kept saying that I'm just spouting whataboutisms, but it's not really a whataboutism. If you are on a platform that you agree is morally corrupt and you're passing a judgment on another platform for being morally corrupt, I don't think that makes it a whataboutism anymore. You can't really do that. You can dislike that platform, you can make all of these points against it, and you're totally right to do so. But I don't feel like if you are still supporting an well, I'm not going to say equally because they're very different, but if you're still supporting an ethically compromised entity, it just doesn't make sense to shit on everyone else and say that their ethics and morals are trash and they are bad people for it. And that's just kind of where I was today. And I don't know how it ended up getting so personal. And I will say to Austinox, you said if I don't stream on Twitch anymore, then you'll stop streaming on Twitch. You got to get ready for that swan song because, like I said, once this
Austinox doesn't stream. He was baiting you. He doesn't stream. Austinox is just my editor.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say like he's got to get ready to pack those bags because once this Twitch contract is over, I will be trying like YouTube and seeing how all of that goes.
Yeah,
I do. Like I still do think that when you are on Twitch, you can't really be passing, or rather, if he's not on Twitch, then if you are openly supporting Twitch streamers and taking money from Twitch through the Twitch contracts, directly supporting Amazon, feeding Amazon ads, promoting Amazon Prime for Twitch benefits, you can't really reasonably pass these ethical, moral judgments on other people elsewhere.
No, and for the record, it's impossible to, as it stands, maintain a platform if that is what your goal is. If you're like, for me, relevance and expanding my audience and, you know, speaking about certain issues that I see in American existence or globally, that's what I want to be able to make these arguments to as broad an audience as possible. And for that purpose, it doesn't matter where I go. I can go to Facebook. Facebook, Meta, literally facilitated a genocide in Myanmar. I can go to Google, YouTube. Google is developing AI technology for the Defense Department to utilize. There is no company that you can work for that is going to have no blood on their hands. But there is a difference. What I think a lot of people see is the difference between like the output versus the way that the way that Amazon is bad is very different than the way steak is bad. Does that make sense? Right. I think Amazon is hyper exploitative, but ultimately their product or their service that they're providing is a useful one that could still exist in an ethical manner, whereas unregulated crypto gambling is not. If it was regulated, if it was a physical space and the barriers of entry existed, I still would have issues with this vice being promoted, obviously, but it would make me at ease a little bit because of how little you could get like 12-year-olds to fucking sign on with their mommy's credit card to go and gamble.
Yeah, those wacky little digits on the back. And I totally understand that for sure. It's just as it currently stands, like while the service Amazon provides is obviously far less harmful than the service Stake provides, it is still a service that is provided on the backs of this hyper exploitative industry. So
100%.
Yeah.
So,
like I said,
100%.
I don't think that's what's been driving me kind of a little wacky today. Like, we're not disagreeing on core components here. It's just labeling people that are also doing morally, ethically things or questionable things as evil or bad. I just don't think it makes any sense coming from a platform like Twitch. And that's just kind of the core of the whole.
No, I think it's because people understandably have issues with crypto gambling, and that's why they're getting upset at what they perceive is going to happen what they perceive is going to happen with Stake, because you and I both understand that like Stake's main purpose for Kick is not to build like this completely separate institution that is somehow going to be profitable in and of itself, when Microsoft failed to do so and Amazon seemingly is failing to do so, even though they have multiple billions of dollars in infrastructure spending already designed to be able to do this web service, live web hosting services. If they're not able to make it happen, then Kick is never going to be a separate profitable institution in of itself, especially when they're relying on Amazon's IVS and Amazon's AWS to exist currently. So that is the reason why people, understandably, I think, are putting, I guess, the cart before the horse and making criticisms about what Kick is going to be in the space, what Kick is going to mean for Stake in general. I think that's what people are upset about. That's what they're saying.
And I think that kind of sums it up best. I guess I was focusing more on present, like what Kick is currently doing in the present versus where it could be in the future. So I think that makes a lot of sense. And I guess it's a matter of we're going to have to wait and see what it does do. Because again, it does have vested interest in Stake being a huge partner of it. But if it scales hugely, maybe it does separate entirely and it's no longer a marriage between the two. That could just be pure hopium, but there is still that potential where it is its own entity that stands on its own if that's the direction they decide to go.
I mean, I just don't think that they're ever going to fucking be able to like create the bandwidth. You know what I mean? Because like it's impossible.
Yeah, it's a Herculean task for sure. 100%.
Yeah, and the reality is like, yeah, they right now, they make what they do the 95/5 splits, which is great. Every company wants to come across like they are super consumer and user friendly when they're first beginning to operate. Right now, Stake makes what, $2.8 billion in gross revenue. And a lot of that is just pure net profit. Let's be real, because the overhead is so minimal for, again, an unregulated crypto gambling casino. So for that reason, they are able to make these crazy, broad, vast expenses and get in the news. And it's no different, in my opinion, than like purchasing an ad spot for Chelsea Football Club or on Formula One. And that is, you know, that's what they're doing, basically. This is a little bit more direct, though, because it's not just, you know, buying an ad spot on your Formula One driver, but instead inevitably creating an ecosystem where you can funnel direct traffic in every way that you want to back to your, back to your casino.
Yeah, once again, totally understand that. And in the future, it very well could be even more aggressive with how they choose to do that. But currently, it is still just localized to a single category, which again is a category Twitch has and does well on Twitch that funnels people directly into those other unregulated, shady casinos as well.
Yeah,
but again, in the future,
the way I see it is this:
absolutely get much worse.
We talked about hot tub streamers, right? Like the comparison I made is like when Twitch said you can't have OnlyFans links directly to your fucking OnlyFans off of the Twitch streams that you're doing, right? What did hot tub streamers do? They created link trees, right?
Yeah.
They created link trees. The link tree, and that's precisely what Stake is doing. It's just more expensive, but they've basically created a link tree. In the form of Kick, so they have like one more layer in order to basically create an environment where they can still funnel direct viewership. Now that's also happening, and that's also happening in a very successful way already. For the record, XQC revealed some numbers to me while we were having a conversation that he thought actually defended his position that like Kick and Stake are completely unmarried from one another. But it actually is really devastating. There is a 2.5% conversion rate between Stake and Kick as it stands. Now, 2.5 is incredibly high for websites, right? Like 2.5 is actually an incredibly high conversion or overlap, an overlap rate, but it is conversion for the most part. In comparison to like the CTR that you get from a banner ad or a CTR that you get from like slapping steak somewhere, right? It's I think we were looking at some numbers. It's approximately 25 times higher overall than like a banner ad. So that, especially when the way to utilize stake, for example, is through a VPN, is pretty good evidence that this is their goal. This is their main purpose. And it's not just people being like, oh, well, this was created by a casino and people are friendly with the casino. That's why they started gambling on that website. And that's what it's going to continue to be. It's more insidious than that, in my opinion. I do believe that. Does that make sense?
I understand, yeah. And that is a very high rate for sure. I do wonder if a lot of that is because most of the people on Kick are gamblers. Like, that is their biggest category by far. And I do wonder if it would stay that high if they, let's say they do give Dr. Disrespect $50 million, billion, whatever. If he only games on there, would that number go up with the people that go to stake? Or is it just going to be mainly they stay on Kick, they watch Doc, and if he's not promoting the gambling section, it'd stay the same or whatever? I just wonder if it's because it's only mainly gambling fiends there right now that kind of push that number higher. And I don't have the answer.
I mean, it's also the fact that they have an overlap map ready to go is a little, especially when you're having a conversation about how like separate Kick and stake is. It's just like, well, why do you even have that data so easily and readily available? Like there's a ROI there is what I'm trying to say. So yes, you're right. When they expand the user base, that number will inevitably go down for sure. That number is also probably lower than what it actually is due to, like I said, you having to use a VPN to access stake in many of the countries where you can easily access Kick, right? So it doesn't directly translate to a one-to-one user conversion. But there's a reason why, as far as I understand, Greece, for example, and other European countries will definitely start following suit, has banned not only stake but Kick as well, because they see it as a marketing vehicle, like a direct marketing vehicle.
Yeah, I haven't read that, but that does sound about right. I believe they also banned, was it FIFA, for pretty much the same thing, for unregulated gambling.
Yeah, exactly. They're right. I mean, EU's much more aggressive, even though ironically there's a shit ton of gambling in the fucking EU, but there certainly is more aggressive regulation. Eddie claims the Greece ban was a mistake. I mean, maybe they'll change it, but as it stands, I understand why they would take a precaution like this. You can't even open CSGO cases in the Netherlands. Good.
Oh, you're gonna ruffle some real CS:GO feathers with that.
I love Gaben.
You gotta keep that one under wraps.
I love Gaben, but fucking, I've never been able to get a goddamn knife. It's fucking bullshit. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. They should have more cool stuff that you can get with fucking crates.
No, you're just bad at gambling. You gotta pay Gaben a little extra cash on top for those knife odds.
Yeah, I don't know how to do it. That's probably what it is. I get it twisted regularly, but it just fucking doesn't work out for me. But yeah, Stake does literally say it's a direct marketing vehicle, explicitly states why they're building it. I don't know why people are refusing. You're not refusing that. Like, you see Kick as a open marketing vehicle for Stake, right?
Well, there's clearly a vested interest, yeah. I just don't know if the whole direction of the company is going to be filter everyone to Stake, because I think they probably would have already started doing that by now. But maybe it's just too early. So maybe they will in the future. So, I understand for sure.
Here's what it's like. Here's what it's like. So remember when these numbers were coming out on Stake's end, or on like crypto gambling websites that were like giving streamers like Aiden Ross, fucking 4 million, 5 million a month. And those numbers were actually like low in comparison to what they ballooned to, right? That to me shows that obviously they're not doing that. When they were doing it on Twitch, they weren't fucking doing that because like 100% of their audience is going to gamble. There's going to be a tiny fraction of their audience. There's going to be a lot of people in their audience that gambles, and then a tiny fraction of that audience that will become lifelong gamblers, right? So in that sense, it's just the same thing with extra steps. But having said that, I still want to believe that it at the very least could be different. We'll see what happens. But my main point of contention here is when people try to separate stake and kick, which I think is ridiculous.
It's not separate right now. It's not.
It's not
100%. Not yet, and it may never be. Because once again, like you said, I would like if it was a legitimate competitor in the streaming space that didn't have any kind of shady shit behind the scenes, because competition is a great thing for the space. So I would like if it has that separation, but right now it doesn't.
Yeah. And I don't think it will because of how this industry works. Like there has to be an ROI, and that ROI comes from conversions. So that's what it is, in my opinion. Like that's where the value is. Like, and it also kind of makes sense why they fucking hate me so much. Because I've heard the owners of the website fucking talking shit, saying that I'm doing like nail painting streams or whatever the fuck. I don't know. They're like, or train routinely, dumping on me. But I would be upset if someone took a very profitable marketing tool that they had away from them. You know what I mean? Because I think Twitch without Kick was significantly better ROI for them, when they could just like give a singular streamer $20 million to do like a fucking gambling contract. They were probably way better off than like having to give Amazon money for AWS, having to give Amazon and like, hire coders to like launch a website, giving Amazon money for IVS. All of this stuff is eating away at their marketing budget, because it's this is their marketing arm. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I'm just confused on where the controversy has come from then from my tweets today.
I think everyone is talking past one another, because I guess there's a layer of moral culpability here that people don't want to see, and you either look past it by saying every company is evil, just like I have said, or you can't look past it and you say, well, what the fuck? How is this any different than getting a crypto gambling sponsorship? You were critical of getting crypto gambling sponsorships, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I think that's what it is. Like, people look at that, and understandably, like, I see both sides of the argument. That's why I said, like, I'm aware of where people are coming from. People see it as no different than here's how it is. People see stake. They see how damaging stake is. They see Kick as a marketing tool for stake. And so they see these contracts that people are getting as purely crypto gambling contracts with like one extra step. That's why they have this issue. So it's a lot of the anti-gambling evangelists who were understandably frustrated with crypto gambling that are saying the same things now. That's why they're saying it's evil and it's shitty to get like deals from Kick. On the other hand, they're saying, well, maybe it's not going to be that way. Maybe it could be something different. That Kick could technically exist as a separate entity, a separate institution. So let's sit back and wait and see where it goes before we get mad at it. Plus, every single company has blood on their hands regardless.
Okay, I think I understand then how this got out of hand on Twitter today. Then. Okay.
I think. Yeah, I don't know. I can't speak on, like I said, I can't speak on what Ostenok's opinions are on the matter. He's a separate person, and I don't.
I'm not trying to treat you as his mouthpiece or anything. It's just this was the drama today, so that's just kind of where my head keeps going. But yeah, I think this was a pretty insightful look at the whole situation. Then, so appreciate you taking the time to sit down about it. Then, and hopefully, I was kind of clear on where I was coming from.
Yeah.
That didn't inspire confidence at all.
No, No. I get what you're saying. Like, I get where you're coming from. And ultimately, when you talk about Amazon's labor practices, like, it's true. I'm not going to fucking sit here and be like, that's wrong. Like, I'm never going to defend Amazon in that regard. I do believe that, I guess the way I described it from the beginning was, as far as totality of evil goes, given how vast and expansive of an empire Amazon is, Amazon as it stands currently is absolutely a worse evil on the planet than steak is. But if we are talking about evil per capita, I guess, for how limited amount of influence and how limited amount of a space that you occupy, steak is more evil per capita than Amazon is. Does that make sense? Because Amazon's output is still valuable. It's a product, it's a service, it's commodity production that will always exist. We're not going to live in caves. You know what I mean? Like, the technological improvements are good. All of those types of things are good. It just could be done in a less evil fashion. It's how that commodity and that service is produced that's bad with Amazon. Whereas with steak, the output is always bad as it stands, without any sort of serious regulation. Like, steak existing in the way that it does currently is genuinely threatening, in my opinion, for a lot of people. But then again, I also have a lot of opinions on gambling and marketing gambling products to people, especially younger audiences. I think it's just overall really bad. I don't like DraftKings, and I don't like the sports betting shit either, for the record. And I do think that these marketing initiatives that these massive gambling companies are engaging in, they're doing so with the express purpose of having people defend it, having regulators start taking notice that these are big players in the space and allow them to exist comfortably when their main service is to basically get people hooked on a vice that is very deadly, very suicidal, very dangerous.
And I think that's a totally understandable perspective that I don't think you have a lot of pushback on, for sure. Like, I get that 100%. But like you said, these things are measured in evil per capita. So I guess I felt like Twitch kept getting a pass because there's a bigger separation from Amazon to Twitch. But I feel like that's still just wrong.
No, there is no separation. I made this exact same argument to XUC where I told him, like,
Okay.
look,
Yeah,
but I think that Amazon's goal with Twitch is quite literally to be the monopolizing force in the live streaming sphere, so they can literally fucking utilize it to shill Amazon products down the line. Like, that's the whole fucking point. And the same goes for steak, but the steak products is unregulated crypto gambling, which is precisely the reason why I have a different perspective on that than I do with Amazon. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I get you. Okay. That's
Anyway,
fair
all
enough.
right. If you want to dip out, I don't want to hold you any longer.
I just want to shower. Like, I'd be down to talk more if you wanted to, if you're still around. But I would like to shower.
All right. I'll be talking about the really awful, devastating thing that happened with the submarine, the submersible.
That's a fucking crazy topic, man.
I love this story. I think it's fucking nuts that people just spend so much goddamn money to fucking sit in the coffin.
That shit is absolutely unhinged. I'm sure you've seen what the inside looks like. Watch the tour if you haven't yet.
I saw the submarine, like, when it was not the capsized version of it, but I saw like what it looked like. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's fucking terrifying. I don't know how anyone would actually get in there.
All right,
man. Take it easy, bro.
Peace, brother. All right, everybody. That was Moistcr1tikal. I hope that was a little bit more illuminating for people. I think I did a decent job of describing my position and why I am, on the one hand, saying, like, congratulations to XC for getting the bag, but also on the other hand, talking about my concerns about Kick as a website. I think that was a productive conversation. 250K from die in a can of tuna. Yeah. NMP is naked in here. Help. The argument can be summed up as Charlie experienced real Twitter leftists for the first time. Ben Shapiro,
Well, folks,
Nicki Minaj drama. I love this. Oh my God. Get after it, Barbs. I can't believe, I don't even know what this is. I don't know what happened with Ben Shapiro and Nicki Minaj, but I would like to ride into battle alongside the Barbs for once. I would like the Barbs to not come after me, but instead come after Ben Shapiro. That's what I want. I want them to get after it.